There's a town in northern Oregon most people drive straight past. No highway signs, no visitor center, just a gas station, a boarded-up diner, and a dozen houses wrapped in fog. The locals don't talk much, especially not about the woods. They call it Weaver's Hollow. The forest that surrounds it is called Hollow Creek. On state maps, it's just another patch of protected land. But ask anyone who's lived there long enough, and they'll tell you to stay out after dark. They say the forest has a voice, and sometimes it says your name. Most people don't believe it. Most people never hear it. Isabelle Lambert didn't believe it either, and she went in looking for answers. She was 24, a solo documentarian known for her raw, quiet explorations of decaying places, abandoned schools, ruined factories, half-swallowed mining towns. Over 500,000 people followed her. She never chased ghost stories. She chased forgotten places. She called it urban memory work. On October 6th, she uploaded a teaser. Exploring the site of the 1999 Camp Vanishings, the title said. She looked into the camera and smiled. "I'm going into Hollow Creek," she told her viewers. "They say people hear things there. We'll see." 2 nights later, her live stream froze. The timestamp read 2:41 a.m. No motion, no sound, just a clearing in the trees, dimly lit by the edge of a flashlight. She was no longer in the frame. Rewind 4 minutes, and you'll hear it. A voice, low and quiet, layered under the wind. It calls her name. It sounds exactly like her, but no one else was there. She entered the forest with 3 cameras, a GPS tracker, and a satellite phone. None of it was ever recovered. The local search was called off within 48 hours. They found no trail, no blood, no broken branches, nothing. But days later, her voice came back. In the final seconds of her corrupted audio file, one line plays clearly, whispered in her exact tone. "I'm still here." She was never seen again. Isabelle Lambert was meticulous, quiet, patient. She didn't chase headlines. She didn't stage jump scares. Her videos weren't filled with screaming or fake ghosts. She preferred silence, dust, echoes, peeling paint in forgotten rooms. She said abandoned places had a rhythm, and if you stayed still long enough, you could hear what they remembered. She wasn't famous yet, not really, but she was rising, steadily. Each new video pulled more people in. People trusted her, not because she was dramatic, but because she wasn't. Her footage was clean, her commentary minimal. Her fear, when it showed, was real. She'd been planning the Hollow Creek trip for months. She didn't tell many people, not even her closest friends. She didn't want interference. She didn't want noise. She wanted to be alone in the woods with the story. She believed there was something real behind the 1999 disappearances. Not supernatural, just unfinished, unsolved. She found a map, printed in 2001, pulled from a closed ranger station. It showed an unofficial trail, a dirt path that cut around the old fire road and into a clearing that didn't appear on any updated GPS systems. That clearing matched the site where 5 campers vanished without a trace 24 years earlier. Locals had a name for it, the Hollow. Most wouldn't say it out loud. According to town records, the search effort was thorough. Dogs, helicopters, volunteer crews, but nothing turned up. No evidence of violence, no signs of a struggle. Only a single voicemail left on a parent's phone at 3:13 a.m. Just one word, spoken softly, almost impossible to make out. A name. Since then, the trail has grown over. The ranger station closed, visitors stopped coming, and the stories got stranger. People claimed the trees moved at night, that voices mimicked the ones you trusted, that if you heard yourself, not someone like you, but yourself, it was already too late. Isabelle didn't believe any of that. She'd recorded in places that made her hands shake, beneath collapsing buildings, inside flooded subway tunnels, in basements where rats had replaced light. She wasn't scared of stories. She told her viewers, If a place scares people, it probably has something worth finding. She packed light, 3 days of supplies, a tarp tent, 3 fully charged cameras, extra audio recorders, a solar pack, backup drives. She tested everything twice, synced her time codes, marked the entry point, set GPS pins. She left a message for her sister just before she went offline. "I'll be in Hollow Creek for the next 72 hours. No signal expected. Don't worry, I'm not alone. The forest has stories." And then she was gone. Day 1 was uneventful. On the surface, Isabelle entered the forest from the northwest ridge at 6:14 a.m. A soft fog hugged the treetops and the air was still. Her first camera log shows her walking along a narrow footpath, the crunch of leaves under her boots, her voice low and focused. She reached the edge of the old campsite just after noon. The ground was uneven, moss overtaking the fire pit. Charred stones circled the ashes of something long dead. Nearby, tent poles lay snapped. A bundle of weather-torn fabric had fused with the forest floor. Nature had swallowed most of it. She circled the site, filming everything: broken glass, rusted zippers, a melted watch face. She noted how quiet it was. "No birds," she said softly into the camera. "No insects, just wind, maybe." But there was no wind. The first sign that something was off didn't come until she reviewed her footage later that evening. She was sitting under the tarp, checking clips on her tablet. One segment showed her walking past a tree with a long gash down the bark. As she passed, the audio spiked. A whisper. Not loud, not clear, just there. She paused, rewound, listened again. It was faint, like it had been layered underneath the original track. Almost like breathing, followed by one word. Her name. She sat up, played it again, heard it. But when she played the original on her camera, nothing. No whisper. The sound only appeared on the backup recorder. She didn't mention it in her logs. Instead, she ran a systems check. Everything was functioning. All backups synced. She made camp, ate a protein bar, and watched the sun fade behind the tree line. At 2:08 a.m., her GoPro captured her sitting up in her sleeping bag, breathing hard. She mumbled something, checked the recorder, then laid back down. What she didn't realize until she reviewed the footage later was that the voice on the mic wasn't hers. It was close. Same cadence, same pitch. But it spoke without breath. Mechanical, measured. "Where are you?" it said. "Help me." She had no memory of saying that. The next day, she tried to head deeper into the forest. Her goal was a flat ridge that overlooked a dried-out riverbed, supposedly where the missing campers were last seen. She followed her GPS, marked her path, kept the camera rolling. But 32 minutes later, she passed the same gnarled tree she'd marked with red tape earlier that morning. She paused, checked the GPS. It still showed forward progress. She walked again, slower now. 10 minutes later, the same tree. She removed the red tape, cut a notch into the bark. An hour passed. She returned to the same notch. That night, she dreamed she was running, not forward, in circles. Each time she stopped to catch her breath, she heard her own voice, calling out from behind the trees.
"Where are you? Don't leave me here. Help."
She woke up with her heart pounding, unsure how long she'd been asleep. Her legs were sore, as if she'd walked in her sleep. Her GoPro was still strapped to her chest. Its battery was dead. She checked the audio file from the lav mic she'd worn all night. A new voice spoke, clear, familiar.
"Come find me."
It wasn't part of her dream. It wasn't part of anything she remembered. And it wasn't her, not exactly. But it sounded just like her. She sat, motionless, for nearly 10 minutes, staring at the waveform, watching the sound of her own voice calling her from somewhere she hadn't been. By the third morning, Isabelle was beginning to lose track of time. Her food supplies were untouched. Her satellite phone couldn't acquire a signal, even after changing elevation. Her GPS had stopped giving consistent coordinates sometime during the night. But her cameras were still running. Her logs were still updating, and so she kept going. The plan had changed. She no longer talked about finding the riverbed or finishing the original documentary. Her newer logs focused on something else, something that had started to take shape in her footage. Patterns, voices, repetition. She didn't admit it outright, but you can hear it in her voice. Her tone changed. Her breathing became clipped. She spoke faster. She stopped saying her own name at the beginning of her logs, as if speaking it out loud gave it away. Just before 6 p.m. on the third day, she found the tent. It wasn't hers. The canvas was sun-bleached, torn and weighed down by vines. Inside was a single sleeping bag, flattened and rotted through. A small flashlight, its battery long corroded. A steel frame camcorder with a cracked lens, and beside it, tucked inside a waterproof bag, was a cassette tape. She didn't say anything as she set up her recorder, just placed the cassette in, pressed play, and let it run. The voice that came out was barely a whisper, male, weak, shaking. Don't follow it. It sounds like you. It learns your voice, uses it, traps you. If you hear yourself run the other way, it wants you to call others. The tape clicked off. Isabelle didn't speak for a long time after that. Her camera remained fixed on her face, pale, still, her mouth slightly open. Later, back at her tarp shelter, she pulled out the SD card from her secondary audio recorder and began reviewing everything clip by clip. She listened to her dream recordings again. The whispers in the background, the words she didn't remember saying. She analyzed her inflection, her pauses, the breaths between words. Then she pulled up a reference clip from 2 days earlier. Her voice, recorded on the trail, and she laid them side by side. Same pitch, same pace, same rhythm, but not the same. The whispering version of her voice had no breath behind it, no human strain, just perfect mimicry, flawless replication. A voice that sounded like her until you listened closely. She watched the final audio waveform loop, and then she whispered to the camera, "It's not a ghost, it's a mimic." Her hands were trembling. That night, her final unsent log was corrupted halfway through, but the remaining 5 seconds remained intact. She didn't speak, she only stared into the camera, her head tilted slightly, as if listening for something just outside the tent. Then, faintly, so faintly, it almost isn't there, another voice speaks, "Isabelle." But this time, it isn't hers. Not exactly.
Not exactly. And this time, it's right next to the mic.
At 2:37 a.m., Isabelle woke up in a panic. The GoPro mounted beside her captured the moment her eyes snapped open. She wasn't reacting to a dream. She was listening. And then, clear, loud, and coming from somewhere deep beyond the trees, it spoke. "Help! It's me! I'm still here!" The voice was unmistakable. Her own. Same tone, same pitch, same raw panic. It wasn't a recording. It wasn't distorted. It was her, somewhere in the woods, crying out. She sat up, frozen, breath caught in her throat. Her head turned toward the sound, northeast. Her hand reached for the flashlight, but she didn't switch it on. For 30 full seconds, she just sat there, lips trembling, body still, eyes wide with something between horror and recognition. Then the voice called again. "Please, I can't get out. It's me, Isabelle," she whispered. "That's not me." But even she didn't sound sure. And then, as if something inside her broke loose, she moved. Fast. She shoved the camera back into her chest harness, grabbed her pack, and ran. No map, no compass. She followed the voice. Her boots slammed through mud and root. Her breathing turned to gasps. Branches lashed across her arms and face, but she didn't stop. The camera shook violently with each step. Occasionally, the lens would catch glimpses of her face, wide-eyed, mouth open, whispering, "Please be real, please be real." The voice ahead began to weep, not scream, not yell, just low sobbing. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't mean to." She called out once, just once. "Where are you?" And then it stopped. Silence, total. The sudden stillness hit her so hard she nearly tripped. She slowed to a walk, shining her light across a narrow, overgrown path. She turned in a slow circle, eyes scanning between trees, her breath hitched. Then the voice came again, just once. Not a cry for help, not a sob, just one word. "Closer." And that's when the camera dropped. The lens hit the forest floor hard, turning sideways. Dirt blurred the view, but the mic kept recording. You could still hear her footsteps, faster now, retreating. Then a sudden sharp shuffle of leaves, a dragging sound, a breath, long, slow, like the last gasp of someone underwater. And then her feet reappeared in frame, kicking, struggling, being pulled backward across the forest floor, toes digging into the dirt, hands outstretched behind her. No scream, just the sound of breath leaving her body. And then, darkness. Not black, dark, as if something covered the lens with skin and held it there.
2 weeks later, a storm passed through northern Oregon, tearing down branches and exposing parts of the forest trail that had been hidden for years. A volunteer search and rescue trainee named Marcus Bell was sweeping through the outer edges of Hollow Creek as part of a mapping exercise when he found it. A battered DSLR camera, half buried beneath pine needles and wet soil. The lens was cracked, the battery dead, but the memory card was intact. He didn't know what he was holding at the time, not until he got back to the ranger station, not until he plugged it in. The first few files were corrupted, garbled color bars, flickering fragments of trees and night sky. Then, clarity. A low shot of the forest floor, mud, scratches on the lens, sounds of breathing, then silence. And then, her voice. "Help me. It's Isabelle." Not screamed, whispered, as if trying not to be heard by something close. Then nothing for several seconds, just the low hum of wind, a soft rustle, a flicker of static. Marcus said he almost closed the file until the voice came again. Same tone, same pitch, but it wasn't pleading anymore. It was curious, gentle. "What's your name?" He paused the video, rewound, played it again. "Help me. It's Isabelle. What's your name?" He brought the footage to the county office. Investigators verified the voice. It was Isabelle's. And yet something was wrong. There were no breathing sounds behind the second whisper, no vocal strain, no mouth movement, just flawless sound, floating across the air like it wasn't bound to a body at all. The footage was archived, the trail was sealed again. But locals say, if you hike too close to the hollow after dark, you can still hear her voice, trapped between branches, carried on the fog. At first, it cries out. Then, it asks, soft, careful, patient. "What's your name?" Would you have followed the voice if it sounded just like you? If it knew your tone, your rhythm, your fear? If it begged you the way only you could beg? If it cried out from the dark, using your breath, your pain, your words, would you have gone after it? Would you have trusted your own voice, even when something else was wearing it? Tell us what you would have done in the comments. And don't miss next week's mystery, the cabin that vanished in real time.